You're the black sheep in this family.
I know.
You're able to think for yourself, question our belief systems, and you're even developing a sense of independence.
And this is an issue?
Well, it's because we're an unconscious family and we're basically repeating patterns that have been passed down from all of the generations before us. And because you're already questioning things and developing a sense of self, it feels like a threat.
What feels like a threat?
Well, one day you're going to start placing boundaries. You'll start working on yourself to change all of the habits and core beliefs you've picked up being raised here. That will feel extremely confronting to me because I haven't reached that level of awareness yet. Because I have abandonment issues that I haven't resolved since my father left me, I'll feel triggered and feel like it's happening all over again. So it won't go well.
Wow, being the black sheep won't be easy.
It really won't, because a part of you is always going to want my love and approval. That will be the hardest part for you, because you're not going to get the same approval that your siblings get. But no black sheep gets approval, and sometimes that's a sign you're on the right path. It's sad to admit, but I'm going to sabotage your brother and sister because I'm codependent. I'm going to unconsciously control them to make decisions that are in my own best interest, not theirs. This will be completely clear to you, but no one else in the family. So stay strong.
Jill is finally speaking out about her past. In a new book set for release in January of 2024, Jill will expose the heinous interactions she and her husband endured with her father over the hit TLC show and her involvement in trying to help clear Josh Duggar's name after his first scandal broke. My friends, it has been estimated that Jim Bob pulled in close to $18 million from the Duggar show. If you're not aware, it's alleged by Derek Dillard that Jim Bob told everyone they were doing it as a ministry and there was no substantial payment being made. So that's why none of the kids were getting paid. Everyone knows that the majority of the Duggars fan base came from people who were specifically interested in watching the Duggar girls grow up, fall in love, and get married. Time to get real. The $18 million that Jim Bob made on the backs of his 4 eldest daughters, Jana, Jill, Ginger, and Jessa, has substantially gone to Josh Duggar's rehab bills, funding his entire legal defense, and now caring for his wife and children, as well as putting some money on Josh's canteen. So finally, Jill Duggar is ready to speak her own truth in the upcoming documentary, as well as in her newly announced book, Counting the Cost. And of course, people are being total a-holes to her about it on the internet. Because in Jill's community, heaven forbid a strong-minded female speak out against clearly inappropriate boundaries inflicted upon her by her family members. We all know it's important to heavily weigh the consequences of going public with private stories about your family. But Jill's story has been public her entire life, and it wasn't even of her own choosing. I am personally so proud of Jill for finding her voice. Now let's roast some of the jerks who are trying to silence her. So yesterday, Jill and Derek made this post on their Instagram announcing their book, Counting the Cost, which will be released in January. I've already pre-ordered it. I will pre-order additional copies and send them to you. Message me if you want one. I'm personally all about supporting this couple. And check out this cartoon. I saw it on Duggar Snark, and it perfectly matches up with what I think about poor Derek and Jill. We all know that Derek was always very worried about the non-disclosure agreement with Jim Bob. Okay, first and foremost, there were lots of people who wrote supportive comments. Here's Amy Rachel King, formerly known as Amy Duggar. I have to say, in the past, I've always stood up for Amy and really liked her. I have some issues with her over some things that have happened recently, but I'm not going to go into that. She is featured on the documentary and she's spending time with Jill. And because I love Jill and trust her opinion, I'm going to let some of the questions go that I have about Amy. But Amy says, "What an inspiring couple you and Derek are. I love how God is opening doors for y'all, cuz you are so brave and strong and your voice will be heard loud and clear. It may not be the path you would have chosen, but through all the darkness and heartache, God is going to get the glory. I couldn't be more proud of you. Love." And I know that Jill responded to this post and said, "Thank you so much, cuz." For sure, it's really good for Jill that she still has someone like Amy in her life, because one of the biggest issues I have with what's happened to Jill is that she really has been made the black sheep of the family. Derek and Jill have spoken out and they've said that they were told they needed to get permission from Jim Bob in order to be able to visit their siblings at the big house. That's a big deal to me. As far as we know, there's no other child who's being treated in that way. And they've been singled out as something is so wrong with them that they need to get special permission from Jill's father to be around the other kids. And that sends a message to Jill's siblings that something is wrong with her. That's so inappropriate and it's so wrong of Jim Bob to do to Jill. It's heartbreaking to hear that she's being treated that way. So in my mind, it is really good news that as far as we know, she at least has her cousin Amy as someone who's still part of her family, her Aunt Deanna, who is also supporting her, and I am grateful for that for Jill. Also, Derek's family is supporting Jill as well, which is really good to see. I believe this is a message from Jill's sister-in-law, so I'm grateful that she has Derek's mom and other people in that family as a support system. There really are a lot of great positive comments under the post for Jill, and I'm so grateful for that. But I will say that Duggar snarkers on Reddit picked up on the many negative, like weirdly negative comments that people were leaving for Jill. It almost seemed as though there was a concerted effort, maybe by people who support the Duggars or the IBLP, to come up against the book that Jill is putting out, and that is such a shame. This snarker writes, "Ugh, the comments under Jill's post, I gotta stop reading them. Full of trade wives and old moms telling Jill, you should honor your parents and deal with it privately. No parents are perfect. How could anyone look at what she's endured and tell her to shut up?" I full-heartedly agree with this post. Okay, this is one that I have to share. This lady, let's call her Karen, says, "Be prepared for your own children to write a book about your failures. I have hard feelings on this. The enemy loves to destroy families." Okay, so quote unquote failures. You mean as in Jill will allow one of her children to SA the other and then put them on a national TV show and then cover it all up, and eventually one will have to go to prison for CSAM? Like, do any of us really believe that Jill will even come close to repeating the crappy childhood she grew up in? Sure, she's gonna make mistakes, I'll allow for that, and maybe her kids will even grow up and be angry. Possibly even estranged. It's hard for me to see that, but for the sake of argument, okay. I still think Jill will forever have the right to be proud of her parenting when it comes to making significant improvements, like leaps and bounds over what her parents did. I think she's probably willing to take a chance that her children won't think she's perfect either. This is about speaking out against a system that is really effed up, and it effed up her life. It's not just about her specific parents. It's about finally speaking her own truth when she's never been given that opportunity before. I think she would want the same for her own children if they were in the situation she's been in for all of her life. So there were a lot of posts similar to that one. Some of them even saying things like, how can you do this to your quote unquote godly parents? It was pretty unbelievable. Here's an example of another poster talking about how she cannot support Ginger or Jill because she sees their books as just being a way to speak out against their parents, shame their parents, make money, and therefore really do bad works against God. I have to say I'm glad that this specific poster was at least respectful in sharing their opinion, but again, I disagree. If you remember earlier in this video, I talked about how that $18 million of TLC money made on really like the sweat and tears of the 4 or 5 eldest girls, it all went to many of the brothers. Josh is only one of them. But the other brothers who, I have no problem with, like John David and even Jed, have been able to launch businesses and buy homes and get into real estate because of some of the money made by the girls on that TLC show. Meanwhile, the girls have been married off and expected to kind of find their own way in life with their husbands. Okay guys, but here's the clincher to all of it. Duggar snarkers were quick to realize that Jed Duggar, none other than Mr. Jed Duggar, went on to Jill Duggar's Instagram and went around liking the negative comments posted about Jill's book. Comments that were saying like, don't you care about your parents? Your parents are godly people and you're speaking out against them. And oh my gosh, here is the part that makes me just tremble with disgust. Because if you're not aware, Jed Duggar doesn't have a real job as far as we know. He works for his father, Jim Bob. And over the past couple of weeks, Jed has been spending his time putting out YouTube videos on his YouTube channel about he and his wife taking a beautiful trip to Hawaii. Jed, where do you think you got the money for a trip like that? From the car business your dad financed and started for you? Wasn't Josh one of the people who helped you build your business to start with? Plus all of the real estate you've been gifted or supposedly had sold to you for $10. Where does that all come from? In my opinion, all allegedly, I believe the money for all of that is coming from the backs of your older sisters. Thank God I have Duggar snarkers to help me feel less alone in all of this. Here's what this snarker wrote. Jed has no right to like posts shaming his sister who raised him and wiped his butt every day. Essayed by their brother, forced to birth on camera against her will, and denied money by her father who stole all of it. For real, he has a lot of nerve. His entire family went to Europe on money that Jill, especially Jill, earned for him. Then Jed went to Hawaii with Kathy. He eats on her and the sisters' dime. I'm in total agreement with this. Let me know what you think below. As a palate cleanser, here's a couple more positive comments saying like, I pre-ordered immediately. I'm so proud of you both. I just can't believe that someone like Jed, who's literally, these boys have been so spoiled, just spoiled. They would still be living in like that 2-bedroom house their parents owned if it wasn't for the show making that family so much money and giving them so much freedom to do what they want with their lives. Completely spoiled and totally unaware of how lucky he is. I really hope that those of you who watch this video can find it in your heart to support Jill as well. Check out her book on Amazon, and I know we all cannot wait to see the documentary, which I've now heard is going to be released on June 1st at, I think, 8 p.m. I'm so excited. I hope all of you will join me. I'm going to definitely make some videos. I might even try to go live a bit regarding the documentary. Thank you so much for joining me here tonight. Hope to see you again when we head down another rabbit hole.